Ah, the sound of real money. It's great, isn't it? But is it really going to be real if there was a situation where the fiat currency that we use behind it disappears? Will someone buy it off you? Will there be anyone to even buy it from you in the first place? So there's a lot of questions about what would happen if gold and silver were to really go up in price. It's all relative to that fiat currency though. So let's take a deep dive into what might happen if gold and silver keep on going up in price. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a very warm welcome to you all joining me for another Precious Metal Ramble. Now I want to ask the question today, is it going to be possible to buy, sell or trade gold and silver in the eventuality that this stuff shoots the moon? Perhaps we will see a silver moon like this, and $1,000 an ounce silver is potentially possible. I will concede, as much as I don't think it's ever going to happen, it might happen. But if it did, would anyone actually be able to afford or buy the silver that you currently might have? Would you cash out? Could you cash out? Is there any point in cashing out? Lots of different things to ask about, and we're going to talk a little bit about gold as well, because I think there's some relevance to what's happening with gold price right now being at a really quite high level, certainly in the UK, and how that, I think, is reflecting in the liquidity of gold right now. So a lot of ground to cover, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section of this video. So please do feel free to comment down below, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying this video as we go. So, big question. If we get $1,000 an ounce, and this is a 1 kilo coin, then this is going to be worth $32,000 or 30-ish thousand pounds. That's a lot of money. Is that going to be even possible for anybody to buy? And even if somebody had that kind of cash at that particular time, would they even want to buy silver with it? Well, it's very difficult to know because that kind of level of pricing has never really come about. I kind of feel like in those extreme circumstances, you won't have a traditional currency, so to speak, that if the dollar goes to that level and we have those kind of prices, there'll be way bigger problems in the world than whether or not you can go and buy gold and silver from a dealer at those price points. So I think at those levels, yes, there is definitely an issue around general liquidity of gold and silver. If those types of numbers happen, I would be not surprised if a great deal of businesses would go completely under and out, and that would mean you'd be struggling to sell this gold and silver to one of the big dealers out there. It's just not necessarily likely. And if we have, considerable numbers of gold going up in the similar way, if silver goes to $1,000 an ounce, then gold could be, tens of thousands of dollars an ounce. That's not really very likely. One thing, though, to remember, that in those circumstances, there will still be value to the gold and silver. It won't just necessarily be you sell it for numbers of dollars and pounds and pence. You might have to use different currencies. Perhaps if the dollar's gone to the brown place, perhaps the UK pound becomes the world's global currency of choice. Very unlikely, of course. Perhaps there'll be other types of money out there to look to exchange that for. And there is where gold and silver shines through and truest, because an ounce of silver is still an ounce of silver. And there's a very good chance that what buys you, right now, an ounce of silver's worth of stuff will buy you the same amount of ounce of silver's worth of stuff in the future. So from that perspective, I'm not too worried about the liquidity of gold and silver in a situation where currencies perhaps have gone really, really to the far end of things. But where liquidity, I think, is maybe more of a concern for people is if we start seeing run-ups on precious metal prices, like we did see perhaps back in 2007. I say I was not around for those price increases, but for example, if we were to see a relative increase in the price of silver and potentially gold as well, we could quite easily be looking at about $60, $70, $80 an ounce for silver, and for gold we'd be perhaps looking at around the, maybe $4,000 an ounce mark for gold. So quite significant, increases on where things are right now. In those circumstances, will there still be people to buy and sell your gold and silver to? Could you, in theory, cash out at the top of those peaks? And will it happen? Those are two big burning questions, I suppose, and the will it happen one is really a question for another time. But what I would say is that we've seen an example of how things went back in 2011. And whilst I wasn't stacking back then, all you've got to do is see and hear and listen to a lot of the stories of everyday people and stackers that bought and bought and bought all the way up that curve, because if it's at $20 an ounce and you think it's going to go to 50, that's a lot of potential profit. If it's at 30 and it's still going to go to 50, that's a lot of potential profit. And if, like a lot of people out there, perhaps you are thinking that this might be the time for it to go to that $100 an ounce, $1,000 an ounce, and you keep on buying and then it doesn't and it settles, that's when you might get in a bit of trouble. So from my perspective, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that unless there is an absolute fundamental collapse in the dollar or the pound or a particular reserve currency of a big nation in this world that has a humongous global impact on money and prices and inflation of currencies, I don't think we will ever see a time when it will not be possible to liquefy your gold and silver very quickly. And when and if you get these massive jumps up, it will start to happen very soon. Now, I want to just break up this video into two parts, and we're going to do a little sponsored spot right now from FE Battery Metals Corp. So let's jump over to the computer and have a quick little talk about what they're up to. Today's video is sponsored by FE Battery Metals Corp, and a big thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. Their ticker symbols can be seen at the top of the page here and are also linked down in the description below, as well as their website and corporate presentations. Do remember that I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a guy who talks about shiny things. And whilst FE Battery Metals focus predominantly on lithium, they do have a little bit of skin in the game for silver, having just found a pretty huge silver deposit at one of their projects. Now also, lithium and silver have, in my mind, quite an intrinsic link into the future. And if we're talking about this video, where silver and gold prices might end up at some point, I do think that it's also worth paying attention to all of the other industries that will be linked to silver's future. And one of the big things that people always talk about silver is renewable energies within solar panels. It's absolutely brilliant for conductivity. It's the best metal to do that with. And where do you put all that energy that you're getting from the sun? You put it into metals that store the energy, like lithium. I'm not an expert, so it's a bit more complicated than just putting the energy into a metal, but you get my point. Lithium is also going to be a significantly important property and commodity going forwards. Now, in terms of the silver that they've just discovered, I find it quite interesting that, again, we're talking about potential growth in silver and gold prices and the squeezes that might happen in this world. It's always worth reminding ourselves just how big this world is. And even a company that just solely focuses on lithium projects and the recovery of lithium from the ground will find silver as a byproduct. And with the price of silver going up and up and up, it'll make more sense for smaller deposits like they might find here to actually mine them and take them out the ground. A lot of the time you get, mines taking resources out the ground and the other stuff is just a byproduct. I remember a dealer telling me about a refinery that they've worked with where they would refine close to 100 metric tons a year from a particular mining company that was focused only on copper. And the silver alone was just this waste product that came out the ground. And they didn't really care about it. They just thought, well, we might as well just try and refine it, so take it. And I find that fascinating. And we're only in this interesting world right now where silver's at $24 an ounce or whatever it might be. And I think we're going to see huge price increases over the time of the next 50 years. And it will become more beneficial for companies to take this stuff out of the ground. So I find it fascinating that we've got companies like FE Battery Metals who are focused solely on lithium, but will consider and are now considering these deposits as something to talk about, to really accelerate perhaps their production of and get more out the ground. So I think that's fascinating, and it's certainly something to be of interest and a nice little win for any company that is looking to take anything out the ground and then finds that they've got something else that's also quite valuable there. So with that in mind, if you're interested in finding out more about Fe battery metals, then go and check them out. There's links down in the description box, as I said. But thank you once again to them for sponsoring our channel. Now let's get back to the video and talk a little bit about whether or not things will be as easy if silver and gold really do start going up in price. Will it be just as simple as I've said there, that more companies will want to take that silver and sell it? And a big thank you once again to FE Battery Metals Corp for sponsoring today's video. Quite an interesting topic and certainly an interesting company, so go and check them out if you're interested. Now, back to the question of whether or not you'd be able to sell your silver and gold, and 100% you will. So we are in this world of, it's a market economy, isn't it? Basically, if there is some money to be made by dealers out there, then of course they will. And I can only speak from my own experiences in terms of the recent selling that I've been doing to say that despite the fact that we're in a situation where gold's price right now is at pretty close to all-time highs in the United Kingdom, there are still people who want to buy it. And even if gold and silver are scheduled to still continue to rise up in price, they'll go up, they'll go down over time as well. And there might well be a dip coming, who knows? It probably won't be, but there might be. It's at a high right now, so it could go down. Anyone who buys right now, who's got the right sense of mind to just hold their gold for a long period of time, I think will be just fine in that long run. The same can be said for those poor people perhaps that got in right at the top of the peak in 2011 that have silver at $50 an ounce, that they are well underwater on that investment. If they hold for long enough and find that next peak, that next opportune moment, they'll get out of it and they'll find that profit that they were looking for. If, though, you're just like perhaps myself and you want to have something as a backup, as a bit of a reserve currency to make basically that reliance on those currencies not entirely on the powers that be that might not be as great at organising as perhaps you might be your own finances, then gold and silver are those big viable options which are really quite good to have. So from my perspective, I don't ever foresee a time when gold and silver wouldn't be liquid, but different elements within, that's a good phrase, elements within gold, silver and platinum will be more liquid than others. So right now we're seeing silver being exceptionally popular and liquid. Dealers are offering to pay a little bit more than spot price. For us in the UK, that's unheard of because they know they can shift it tomorrow. And I know that I can shift silver tomorrow at absolutely no problem. The fact that I have sold over £250,000 worth of other people's gold, silver and platinum within the last 4 months, I think speaks volumes to quite how liquid things are, even though prices are quite high. There are certain things, though, which will be less liquid in those short-term scenarios, things like platinum that have this really difficult market to them. A lot of dealers can't make money on platinum, so they don't offer great prices for it. And even things like gold right now are really quite difficult to perhaps think about making that good margin on. Gone are the days when you could buy gold from a dealer at 4-5% for a brand new Britannia and then easily get 4-6% out of it at the other end when selling it on to somebody on the second-hand market. That's just not possible right now. People who, if they're going to buy gold and they want to buy gold, they want to buy it at 2%, 1%, 2% over spot price, and it's difficult to sell otherwise. It just takes time, and unless it's a particular collectible one like a Jubilee Sovereign, it's difficult to do that. Silver, not at all. It just goes like that, like a flash. So that's my thoughts on the matter. Two kind of contradicting approaches, I suppose, where if there is a complete collapse, I think we'll struggle to see businesses still in effect that could take this stuff. I think there will, if we're talking about a massive apocalyptic collapse, there probably will be metal exchanges happening at some point. Gold and silver have been those monetary metals for human beings for thousands of years. That's not going to change anytime soon, especially if fiat currencies collapse. Are fiat currencies going to collapse though? I really don't think so. They will dwindle, they will not be great, and they will be revalued over time as they always are. But we will use fiat currencies forever now, because whether it's a fiat currency or a central bank digital currency, it's here to stay, and that's how the world works. It does not work on these physical things anymore that you take down to the shops. It's not convenient, it's not practical, and it's just not how we are going to be as a society. And last little conclusion is that if we do start to see prices increase quite significantly, you can bet your bottom dollar that there'll be companies out there that will be trying to sell it, and they'll be buying it to sell it on even more, and they will make money on it. That's how it's always run. That's how it worked in the big run-up of 2011, and it's how it's going to run if it goes up again. So that's my thoughts on this subject. I think it's quite interesting. I'd love to know what you think. A big thank you to all of my Backyard Bullion ramblers who've listened to the back end of my video. It's great to hear from you down in the comment section. And if you are listening at this point, you're in the Cool Kids Club, thank you. We really do appreciate your viewership and support. And if you are watching to this point and you haven't subscribed, then what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, please. Otherwise, that's it from me. We'll see you on the next video. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.